Hi guys, I'm Lori. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be about why I'm learning Hindi, how I'm doing it, how little I actually know. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe down below. And if you want to learn about how little I actually freaking know about Hindi, then keep on watching. Okay guys, so the deal is I was born in Canada. You might be able to tell from my accent, but I have been living in Australia for the past several years, and I'm about to embark upon a 2+ year journey to learn Hindi from basically nothing. I currently do speak French fluently, so I'm hoping that these previous language learning skills will assist me in some way, but obviously Hindi and French and English are not that similar, or at least I don't think they are. We'll find out. So the reason why I'm interested in learning Hindi is my whole life I've always had a fascination with Indian culture. I remember way back in the day, I used to go to this festival in Winnipeg called Folklorama. I assume it still goes on now. And if so, hey Folklorama guys. But basically it's like an Epcot center, all in one city. So if you haven't been to Epcot, which is basically in Disneyland, it's there's buildings all around, and each building is like a self-contained country. So at this Folklorama festival, there'd be a Polish pavilion, there'd be a Ukrainian pavilion, also amazing. And of course there was an Indian pavilion, and basically it was a school, and they'd have dancers and food, and I always wanted to go every year, and I found myself being really mesmerized by the dancers, and always wanted to eat the food, which, I mean, who knows if it's legit Indian food now. I mean, it seemed Indian at the time. And anyway, long story short, I remember one time my mom took a DNA test. The companies, there's heaps out there that do it, where you spit in a vial, send it away, and like a month or 2 months later it comes back and says, you are, 1/8 Scandinavian or whatnot. And hers came back with just, what I would expect mine to be, which was English and Irish and Scottish, a bit of Welsh, stuff like that. So she said, you got to take this test. Because, Dad's side of the family was always a bit darker. So we thought they were the Black Irish, so perhaps some Spanish influence. And anyway, I'm just going to pop up on the screen now. There's a photo of me and my grandfather when I was a baby. And as you can see, he's quite dark. And since I moved to Australia, I remember showing people that photo a few times for whatever reason, and they'd be like, who's the black dude? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, the black guy that's sitting with you. I'm like, that's my grandpa. He's not black. He's, he's Irish and, whatnot. And anyway, long story short, my results come back, and surprise, surprise, there is Indian in my DNA. And so I'm really excited. I was like, wow, this blew my mind. It was this revelation. And I, of course, told my dad and told different family members who, to my surprise, were actually not believing the result and not super happy about the result. And I started to doubt it, and people were like, oh, it's a bogus test, it's not real. So I thought, okay, right. So just to be evidence-based, I took another DNA test from a totally different company, waited the 8 weeks or whatever, and came back, guess what, Indian. And so after that, just to be sure, I went to another company, because I'm crazy, and I took another DNA test and waited the 8 weeks or whatever. And again, it came back confirming that there was Indian heritage in our family. And so that was a pretty compelling case to bring to the naysayers and say, well, look, 3 different companies, 3 different tests. Clearly, there's not a big conspiracy theory, and we are, in fact, Indian. And looking back at that photo of me and Grandpa, I was just like, oh, so dumb. So clearly, yeah, you can tell there was actually some Northern African in there as well, and there was Spanish, as we expected, and Portuguese and a few other things, which explains his coloring. And so that sort of really got me going and thinking, okay, well, like anyone that's just learned a part of them that kind of has been a mystery their entire life, I became really interested in exploring this Indian heritage. And a first step to me seemed like my best way into the culture would be to learn some of the language. And so that's kind of the main reason why I'm starting this journey. So the next thing I want to talk about is the how I plan to go ahead and learn Hindi. So, I mean, in the past I've used a lot of different language learning apps. Like, I know everyone seems to know Duolingo, which is free, amazing. And there's also Babbel, which I've used a lot of, especially for French, and I found that really helpful. And so I actually went on Babbel and I tried to see if there was Hindi. I think Hindi's in the works, but there's nothing really on there at the moment. On the internet, I basically never heard a good story about Rosetta Stone except for from their marketing people. And I thought at the same time, I did some digging on the internet and I thought, okay, well, who's actually completed Rosetta Stone in any language? And a quick Google, I mean, there's a couple people who say that they've finished, and that may or may not be true because I actually haven't seen the dashboard saying yes, they have completed it. And they seem to have a pretty decent grasp of some of the language, but they also say that Rosetta Stone was basically their sole method of learning the language. And I'm pretty sure that no software alone is going to get you to your fluency goals just by sitting at a computer and talking to a computer. So anyway, I did buy it because it's one of the few programs out there that seems to be of quality, and the cost has really come down recently. I remember historically that used to be like $500 or something Australian, which I think for what it is quite expensive, but I think lately with all the new entrants to the market like Duolingo and Babbel, they really had to lower the price. So anyway, I will tell you the cost of that is, I think it's about $150 for 2 years access to the Hindi course, and basically after that cuts off. But the way I see it is my plan is to, which I'll talk about later, is to finish it a lot sooner than 2 years anyway. And besides Rosetta Stone, the other thing that I plan to do, and I know I'm going to get a bit of flack for this, is I have decided to enroll at a fully online course in Hindi that's offered through an Australian university. And essentially we just log in once a week to a Zoom class, and we can do that in our pajamas and whatnot. And it is directed by a teacher. And the reason that I chose to do this course is because I feel like it's going to make me a lot more accountable than if I'm just playing on an app. I feel like that app, I can just, if I'm lazy, I'm going to stop doing it, and I really need something to kind of kick my ass. And I know if I enroll in a course and I've got set things I've got to do by a certain time, I'm going to be a lot more motivated to do so. I'm also really mindful that I'm very fortunate to be able to afford to firstly buy Rosetta Stone, which is $150, it's not cheap, and also to enroll at a course which is $1,500. I just want to be totally upfront about that. I know it's a lot of money, but I think, we all make choices in life, and I don't really, go out heaps. I don't do heaps of travel yet, and this is just something that I saved up for, and this is how I want to spend my money. I'm not saying you should do it that way. I'm not saying anyone should do it that way. This is also not, this channel isn't going to be me teaching you how to speak Hindi. It's really just going to chronicle my journey, and I actually hope to transition into speaking just Hindi on this channel eventually. But I will consider doing some subtitles in English as well. But please feel free in the comments down below if you have any tips for anyone on how to learn Hindi in a really cost-effective way or free way, please feel free to leave those down below. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is what I currently know in Hindi, which is pretty close to nothing. What I do know is that they use a script, and it's called, I'm going to say this wrong, a Devanagari. I'll get back to you on that one. And I know how to order my favorite food, mainly in English, but I know when I order Indian food how to say aloo gobi, which is cauliflower and potato. I'm not sure which order. Obviously dal, and yeah, pretty much I can order food, and I've memorized like palak paneer, I know is cottage cheese, and spinach, which sounds really, really gross, but it's actually delicious. So I'm really starting from a low base here, which means there's only up from here in terms of language. I'm pretty scared because I don't know if I'm going to freak out if the script's backwards. So if it's, you know how like Chinese goes the other way. So if it's like that, I'm going to be probably in some trouble. But I will let you know on the next episode. So thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.